You know, man, in middle school and early high school, bro, like the amount of fear that I had to speak publicly or give a presentation publicly, anything speaking publicly, man, like I was petrified. I was in absolute fear to do those kinds of things. I remember I remember earlier on in high school, whenever I had to do presentations, man, like it felt like the world was over. Just the days that would lead up to the presentation, I'd be in great fear. And then when I had to actually go and do the presentation, man, like the fear was great. The fear was big. I remember there was this one time in my English class I was given, I think this was my junior year of high school. I was given some presentation about a book, I think, and bro, like the amount of fear that I felt, like, I mean, my mouth started getting dry. I think my legs started shaking. Just straight up fear. Like, it was to the point where, like, my heart was beating so hard. I'm pretty sure if you were to, like, look up my shirt, you could see my shirt moving up and down like that. Like, not to a great degree, but slightly, because your boy was scared. And this would manifest in different ways, in different kinds of presentations, you know, and as you would assume, like, the greater the amount of people watching, the greater the fear would be. And I think this is relatively reasonable. A lot of people experience this, you know what I'm saying? Presentations are a nightmare for a lot of us. But it's really interesting because even though I had that fear, I always had the desire to want to be a public speaker. Like, growing up, I had a lot of influences around me, like my dad and some of the, you know, other people I looked up to, some of the famous people I looked up to who were phenomenal public speakers. And I knew, like, from a relatively younger age, that this is something that I wanted to be good at, you know. And it was interesting because even though, like, I was afraid to speak publicly, I would have my moments where, like, the confidence would be crazy, you know what I'm saying? It was very much so up and down, relatively unpredictable. And you know, this continued on in college. You know, once I got here to Hope, like, that fear was still there, you know. It wasn't gone. Even though I had the desire for it to go away, I hadn't done anything about it for it to go away. And yeah, man, it was still there, still very wavering. I remember once during an RA training, my group, our table, we had to, like, stand up and, like, say something something related to the RA training. It was something really slight, but the amount of fear that I felt, man, knowing that it was about to be, like, my time to speak in front of, like, I believe it was over 100 people or something like that. Like, it was crazy when I look back at it. When I look at the person I am now compared to that version of me, a lot has changed since. But yeah, like, the same thing happened to me there. Like, my mouth got dry. I think my leg was shaking. Like, just a lot of those, you know, common feelings we feel when we're afraid to present or speak publicly. But again, even at that point, I knew that this is something that I wanted to be better at. So I thought of a solution, you know, that is not unique to curing you know, a fear of public speaking, but that you can apply to so many other areas of your life in relation to things that, you know, you want to be good at and that you're not. And that simply is immersing yourself in that thing you're uncomfortable, learning to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I'm not gonna lie, out of all the, like, self-improvement related things, this was probably the hardest for me to learn, because it's almost like you're split into two. On one end, your brain does not want to do that thing at all that you're trying to push yourself. And for me, it was public speaking. Biologically, my hands would sweat, like I said, the heartbeats, the dry mouth. Like, my brain did not want to do that at all. But at the same time, there was another part of me that wanted to become a certain version of myself, that wanted to be good at this. So for me, that's what I started to do. I started to take, like, all the opportunities I had, or many of the opportunities I had, to speak publicly. And that way I was immersing myself in the thing that I'm uncomfortable with. I mean, this is analogous to so many things in life. Think about, like, cold showers, for example. When you first hop in a cold shower, maybe even before you hop in a cold shower, you don't want to do that at all, but you know that the benefits are great. And once you finally get into that cold shower, bro, I mean, you're, like, hopping all over the place. It hurts. It's really bad. But the longer you remain in that cold shower, the less it bothers you, until you get to a point where it doesn't bother you at all. And again, that analogy is applicable to so many other things in life, but for me, I applied that to public speaking, and it helped. I would be so uncomfortable, like, just doing the basic things. And this was especially true in high school, but, like, keeping eye contact with, like, strangers, or, you know, just things of that nature. Later on, when I got to college, I, like, started doing that more, you know what I mean? Started engaging in more public speaking, and in the beginning it was uncomfortable. All those things that I talked about, that all those symptoms, they were there, and maybe even more, because I was really pushing myself this time. But you know, while I was uncomfortable, like, I was comfortable with that. It was okay that I was uncomfortable, because again, like, I wasn't looking at the present me, who I am today, or maybe the possibility of me like stuttering or embarrassing myself in front of people. I was thinking about the future me that I could become, like, to finally develop a skill that I've, you know, wanted for a while. And over time, that's what started to happen, you know. The fear started going away, started to, like, really understand, not just know, but to really understand that these people who I'm talking to, man, like, they're human beings too, you know. They breathe air, they go to the bathroom, they eat food. Like, you're not talking to God or anything like that, you know what I mean? And I realized that oftentimes, you know, we as humans, we have this thing where we think people really care about our appearance, or just kind of those minute annoyances that bother us. But at the end of the day, man, people don't really care as much as you think, bro. You might think that they care so much, or that they're judging or this and that, but at the end of the day, people do not care as much as you think, or I bet you 9 times out of 10, they do not care as much as you think, man. So as I continued to immerse myself in this, I started to adopt these mindsets, you know, and I'm at the point in my life where I love public speaking, you know. I think whatever it is that I'm to do next in life, I certainly wanted to involve public speaking, man. I just love the opportunity to be able to, you know, stand before people and talk about my ideas, and, you know, have them respond back too, especially in that bigger setting. But yeah, man, it was mad uncomfortable. I think the most uncomfortable thing, again, that I've had to do related to self-improvement. But you know, I thank God. I got to the point where last school year I was able to give a TED talk, and that was a blessing, biggest blessing I've had in my life so far, greatest opportunity, you know. And I'm really grateful I took those steps earlier on, so I could get to that point, you know. So not to be gloatful or gloat at all. That's definitely not the intention behind that anecdote, but more so to, you know, kind of show that it took baby steps. It took me, I guess, doing those things before of uncomfortability speaking publicly for me to get to that point. And, you know, God willing, we got more to come. But yeah, man, that's like the biggest advice I would give to anybody who has a fear of public speaking, or really any kind of social anxiety, you know. The best way to do it is to confront the problem itself, man, and recognize that it's going to be uncomfortable, but be fine with that. And when you're in those uncomfortable moments, man, like, I think, like, some people will disagree with this, but when you're in those uncomfortable moments, don't think of some mental exercise you can do. Like, there's a whole thing of, you know, when you're talking to an audience, imagine everybody in diapers. I think the best thing to do is just confront it head on, because I think those other tricks or hacks, they're temporary fixes. But by confronting it head on, bro, you're dealing with it in the most challenging way. And that, I think that makes it easier for you in the long run, because then you're getting the full experience of that fear. And when it begins to dwindle, that full fear itself will dwindle in its full form, you know. So yeah, man, all that to say, if you have any kind of social anxiety, public speaking related, I think I'll probably make a whole video about social anxiety, but public speaking related, or any kind of social anxiety, man, like, just tackle it head on, you know what I'm saying? Find opportunities to speak publicly. Find opportunities to speak to strangers in productive and safe ways, of course. Because that's what it's all about, man. I think that's the greatest way we can overcome these things, is by tackling them head on rather than trying to work around them, you know what I mean? And you don't have to start, like, massively, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to find, you know, somehow some crowd of hundreds of people to speak to. It can be as simple as starting off with, like, a couple strangers, and that goes to 5 people, then to 10 people, and then maybe find some opportunity in your community to speak publicly. If this is something that you want to improve on, tackle it head on, bro, rather than trying to go around it, man. All right, I'll see y'all in the next one.